Support for Comics for Fun and Profit is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate in men's hygiene. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code C4FAP at manscaped.com. I've been with Manscaped since the 1.0, and now we're on the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is the future of grooming, and I dare say the greatest trimmer ever. The fourth generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproofed and also has an LED spotlight for more precision shaving. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code C4FAP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code C4FAP. That's the letter C, the number 4, FAP at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Aloha, this is Jason from Ahoy. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing writer and editor-in-chief of Ahoy Comics magazine, Mr. Tom Peyer. Tom, three questions. Tom, one, first off, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes, you did, Jason.
Thank you. And second, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. And the third and most important question is the breaking news today. How do you like your new mouse pad?
I like it so much that I tweeted it.
Mm-hmm.
It is my new mouse pad is it's a detail from a cover of Action Comics. I want to say 277, but I probably have that wrong. It's in the 270s by Kurt Swan, and it looks like George Klein, maybe Stan K on the inks, and it's got. But mainly, it's very brightly colored. And it's got a tug-of-war between Crypto the Superdog and Streaky the Supercat. And Supergirl and Superman are like rooting for their pets. And they're tug-of-warring with a heavy chain, and it's beautiful.
And then before I continue on, where did you get your mouse? You were telling me where you got your mouse pad from.
I went to this website, Zazzle.com, and they have some very unusual DC licensed stuff there, and I was very pleased to find this. I didn't expect it.
That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to continue on. So listeners, Tom is here to promote the Wrong Earth event. Now, according to the press release that I read, it's quote unquote Ahoy's money-grabbing multiverse spanning event, and this event covers five issues. The Wrong Earth, Trapped on Teen Planet #1, that comes out. That's already out in stores right now, and it is Gail Simone's first work with Ahoy Comics magazine. And then The Wrong Earth, Fame and Fortune #1, that comes out on April 14th. The Wrong Earth, Purple #1 comes out on May 18th. The Wrong Earth, Confidence Men #1, that comes out on June 22nd. And then Tom wraps up the series with now correct me if I'm wrong, right? You wrap up the series with Wrong Earth Meet #1 that comes out on July 27th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Now, Tom, before we get into the interview, I just want to tell our listeners your amazing history in comics. And I'm just going to highlight some of your work, because if I go over through your whole works, our interview would be over in an hour. And all right, so now Tom's started working. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Anytime, Tom. So you started working at DC. You wrote some great things. One of them was the Our Man series that came out in 1999. Is that correct?
Yeah. Around then, 98, 99 in there.
Okay. I know it ran for 25 issues, and all issues are available now on Comixology and on that DC app. I can't remember the DC apps.
DC Unlimited, is it? Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And then I know you did some work on, you wrote some Justice League and the Legion of Superheroes.
Hmm.
You were the editor. You were also an editor on the Vertigo line from 1987 to 1993 with Karen Berger.
Actually, I started in 1990 with
Oh,
Karen.
okay, all right. You were an assistant editor to Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Is that correct?
That's correct, for a year. Yeah.
Okay, and then you also worked with Alan Moore and Grant Morrison. Is that correct?
I worked with Grant, not Alan, but I was the editor of Doom Patrol for a while. And the sort of, I'd say, last third of Grant's run, I was the editor of.
Okay. Now, for Marvel, you were a writer for various Spider-Man comics and Marvel Apes comics. Is that correct?
I did, my Marvel Apes pieces were like 1, 2, 3 pages. They were like these tiny little backups. I did write Marvel Team Up for a little while.
Oh, okay.
With Spider-Man, and I wrote some issues of Spider-Man with Mark Waid of the Amazing Spider-Man later on, and I also had a series for a little while at Marvel called Quicksilver and his Knights of Wondergore.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, my memory's not that good, but I vaguely remember that series.
You would have to have an amazing memory to remember that comic book. It didn't come out for that long, and, but it was definitely part of my Marvel experience.
And then you also worked at Bongo Comics as a writer. You wrote some Simpsons comics. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
For Oni Comics, you wrote. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You wrote the first issue of Stephen Colbert's Tech Jansen that came out in 2007.
Right. I think that was the only issue too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
go ahead.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
And of course, you're the editor-in-chief of Ahoy Comics, and you have written The Wrong Earth that came out in 2018, Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man in 2019, and Penultimate Man, if I remember correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Now, for books, now you also wrote. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. With Hart Seeley, the book is called "Oh Holy Cow: The Selected Verses of Phil Rizzuto." Is that correct?
It's Rizzuto.
Rizzuto. It's from Harper Paperbacks in 2008. Now, it's a book of collections of found poetry based on the calls of the baseball icon and Hall of Famer Phil Rizzuto. Now, Phil was known as the Scooter. He played for the shortstop for the New York Yankees between 1941 and 1956, and he was a broadcast announcer for the Yankees for a number of years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he worked for the Yankees his whole life, one way or the other.
Okay. And then so how big of a baseball fan are you?
I like it. I like the Yankees are my team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these big super brains who can rattle off a lot of statistics and I can enjoy a game. And some years I'm way into it, and some years less so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, did I miss anything?
Probably not. I mean, I think you hit all the big ones.
Okay. But thank you very much. Now, before we start the interview, I want to give a big shout out to Hannah of Superfan Promotion. Hannah, thank you very much for honoring my request. I asked Hannah, hey, is there any way I could interview Tom? She arranged it. So Hannah, thank you very much. I'm just going to ask you want to add anything to that, sir?
Oh, she's so wonderful at her job and so great to work with. I'm glad. It's nice to hear you acknowledge her on the show because she really deserves it.
Oh yes, every time, sorry, I'm kind of going off track, but whoever helps me arrange interviews, it's important to give them a shout out because okay. Now, for listeners, if you guys get a chance, please check out Tom's other interviews. He's done an interview on the YouTube podcast, The Comics Cube, that came out in April 26, 2021. And of course, Word Balloon, that episode came out on June 29th, 2020, and that was known as Dragonfly Man Day. All right. Tom, where can followers follow you on social media?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Tom Peyer. That's TOMPEYER, and that's really all of my social media these days is Twitter.
Okay.
And Ahoy has a Twitter account called at Ahoy Comic Mags.
Okay.
Mags like magazines,
Mhm.
because we're like magazines. We have those text stories in the back of our issues.
And also, I'm going kind of off the cuff, but I remember in one of the My Bad issues, you guys had one of those what was it? Those fill in the blank word things.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah.
that was pretty cool. And I remember Hannah also wrote a one-page short story in.
It was in Second Coming.
Yes, yeah. So that's pretty cool.
She's a good writer.
Yes. So, all right. So Tom, where did you grow up?
Syracuse, which is right in the middle of New York State,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not too much like where you are. It has pretty rough winters usually.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of snow, very cold. You'd love it here. And then, but it's been mild the last couple of years, so
Yeah.
so I'm happy about that. But it is right at the hub of New York State, so
Mm-hmm.
we can get to New York City in 4 hours. We can get to Canada in a couple hours. It's pretty nicely situated.
That's pretty cool. Now, what was or were your first comics that you read?
Well, I always think of the only ones I'm sure about are the first ones that really bit me, really made me love comics. Because there must have been comic books before that, but I don't remember. I would have been 6 years old, and there was an issue of Superman that came out, Superman 140, and the story was called The Son of Bizarro. And it was one story took up the whole comic, which was unusual then.
Mm-hmm.
It was this extremely dramatic and funny and high stakes adventure that sort of climaxed in the threat of war between Earth and the Bizarro world over the fate of a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very heavy stuff for a 6-year-old to read. And I loved Superman from television back then, the George Reeves Adventures of Superman. But this was so much richer and deeper, and it had so much more breadth and flying and color, and it was just really, it blew my mind. I could never go back after that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I grew up loving Superman comics, and I grew up loving all comics really, but particularly DC's and Marvel's. And my first Marvel comic was Fantastic Four #6, and with Dr. Doom and Submariner teaming up. And my first Spidey also had Dr. Doom. It was Spidey #5. And so growing up, I got to see all that month to month. Ditko, Kirby,
Yes.
Kurt Swan, Superman. So many great creators, and they were a huge part of my childhood. Maybe other kids loved baseball players, but I really loved pencilers and inkers and letterers.
I'm going to ask, do you still have any of those comics that you bought from the 60s? Do you still have them?
I have a lot of the stories. I don't have like the same copies.
Oh, okay.
I was never a collector as much as I was a reader.
Yeah.
And I have I have a pretty huge digital collection now of
okay, yeah.
a lot of the stuff I read when I was a kid. I can go back and look at it.
Yeah. Now, Drew, the Comics for Fun and Profit co-host, he submitted this question. What was your first comic shop?
My first comic shop was called Dream Days. It was named after a Maxfield Parrish painting in Syracuse, New York. And it was run by a wonderful man who's no longer with us. And his name is Mike Sagert. And he had his comic book store. He opened the first comic book store in Syracuse in the 70s. And he ran a convention, a comic book convention in this beautiful old theater. He would do it on Halloween and really try to get kids to come. And it was always so good to children. And just a great man, great store owner, great comics guy. And he wasn't about the money so much. He really wanted kids to have the same kind of fun he had. That was the most important thing to him.
Wow, that's so cool. Off the cuff question, did you go to any of his conventions that he had in the theater?
Oh, I always did. I had a comic strip see, we didn't have comic stores till I was already an adult.
Yeah.
So these weren't where I bought comics as a kid. Mostly that was like drugstores and stuff. But I was doing a comic strip for a local newspaper. So I got to when Mike would do a show, I would get a table, and I met so many wonderful people there. Joe Sinnott, the Fantastic Four anchor, I met him at that show. Got to hang out with John Toddleben, who did Swamp Thing with Alan Moore. Tom Yates, really terrific cartoonists and comic book people. Roger Stern and I probably met there.
Yeah.
It was such a help to my career.
Yes.
And so it was a beautiful scene. It was a really nice show.
That's pretty cool. Now, this is the perfect segue. So, how you already said you're already working on a comic strip already. How did your journey started working into comics? I know you had your comic strip, but
Well, the thing one thing is that most people, at least back then, most people who started doing comics for DC and Marvel tended to be like in their early mid-20s maybe. And by the time I broke into DC Comics, I was like in my mid-30s. So it was very different for me. I had a lot of life behind me, a lot of experience, and I hope that made my stories better. I don't know, but also I was kind of a newcomer where people my age weren't. So that was a strange feeling. But that's not a complaint at all. But it felt unique. But the main thing I learned, and the main thing I hope my story shows, is that you never know what's going to be your break. Do everything all the way, because you don't know what's going to help you. And it was really my local comic strip that got me noticed by Roger Stern, who was writing Superman, and he had written Spider-Man, a great comic book writer, and he got overcommitted and needed some help on some things, so I assisted him, and he paid me, and I would do write the first draft or a middle draft of the story that he had worked out. I would have done that for the rest of my life happily, but he felt guilty about it because he wasn't crediting me. So he introduced me to his editor, Mike Carlin, and I got some work out of there. And then Mike, I got to write the Atom for a little while. That was my first guy.
Oh, okay.
And, then Mike recommended me when a vacancy came up in the editorial office of Karen Berger. She hired me to be her assistant editor. And then a year or so into that, she started Vertigo. So I was there and on the origin of that. And so I had people helping me all the way. I've always had a lot of good support, including at Ahoy. And I'm really grateful for all of it.
Off the cuff, because Tom, it's so incredible that it just listening, we're only like 20 minutes into the interview. It's just so incredible to hear your amazing, history of comics, because you were there at the beginning when Marvel started, with the Fantastic Four,
Mhm.
when you joined, when you came into DC, because this is 5 years, about what, maybe within the last 5 years after Crisis on Infinite Earths, when DC started to really, kind of change a different, to reinvigorate, their characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and then you're also like on the ground floor of Vertigo. That's incredible,
Yeah, I was lucky. The timing has always been very good for me, just to
Mhm.
be around things when they were getting interesting. And I'd say DC really, the sort of DC superhero line really exploded probably about 5 years before I got there, 4 or 5 years in terms of creativity, with
Mhm.
Dark Knight and Watchmen and stuff.
Mhm.
But Vertigo, it really felt being there like we were doing something important that
Mhm.
people were going to remember.
Mhm.
It felt like EC Comics in the 50s must have felt or something.
Mhm.
And because we had so many just wonderful artists and writers
Yes.
doing material in ways that they weren't really allowed to do before
Mhm.
in mainstream comics. And it was just, God, it was a beautiful time.
Mhm. And now, Tom, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff questions here, but
That's fine.
correct me if I'm wrong, because for me in Hawaii, um, because in the 80s we were slowly getting comic books, like literally comic book stores just focusing on comic books, pop
Mhm.
culture stuff. And this is where the Vertigo line was kind of sort of going to the direct market, right? Isn't that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was. It was. I don't think we were on the newsstands.
No, yeah, I'm trying to
It
remember.
was. It had the mature label, so that it wouldn't have gone to like a convenience store or something.
Yeah, okay,
Store. It was direct on.
yeah, but like but that's pretty cool. That again, it's just the shift of the again being part of that comic book history that you see, yet you're a part of.
Mhm.
The shift from moving from, we still have the Supermans and Spider-Mans that can be sold at convenience stores, drugstores, but then you also have this other line that can be only sold directly, the direct market to straight to the comic book stores, which is great. Where the stores were a little bit more matured. It was a little bit because I still remember picking up like the new Titans or the new
Mhm.
Teen Titans or George Perez and Marv Wolfman. That was a direct sale thing. I think
Yeah,
even superheroes. So sorry, I'm kind of digressing. Sorry.
it's fine. That's fine. I was there for. I mean, I was a fan for all of that. It's it was a big change. It was a real big change when you started to have the books that only went to comic book stores. They didn't have to sort of they weren't going to be for casual readers. They didn't have to fill you in on too much. They didn't have to try to seduce you to come in. It was people who really wanted it.
Yeah, that's right.
So the tone was very different.
Yes. So I know you said that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Like you mentioned, the Atom was your first professional comic that you got credit for. Is that correct?
Power of the Atom. Yeah, there was an issue of Superman that I plotted and Roger scripted that I got credit on. I think it was Superman 31,
I
and
Yeah.
so that was my first credit.
Okay.
And then I did I don't know, 5 or 6 issues of Power of the Atom, sort of
Mhm.
the end of the series. And I learned, that was a dream come true to just have my own comic to write month to month. I mean, that was amazing.
So I know that you're a Superman fan. You watched the 1950s TV show reruns.
Mhm.
Um, how excited were you to see your name on a Superman comic that first time?
It was
How?
pretty mind blowing. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. But you know what got me even more than seeing my name on it was when I was working on the script and just typing the word Superman and knowing that I'm typing that word professionally.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I really got like, just I felt it like shivering through me.
No, but that's pretty cool. Now, this is the off-the-cuff question. So I know John Byrne, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know John Byrne took over Superman I think Man of Steel came out in 1986. Kurt Swan retired from the Superman comics. Now, I'm going to ask, did you ever meet Kurt Swan?
I did meet Kurt before then when he was still the monthly Superman artist. And it was at the Ithaca convention. It was at Ithaca
Mm-hmm.
where I'd met Roger Stern and he helped me, And Kurt was very friendly to me. I hadn't broken in yet, but he was very friendly to me. He bought me a beer and we talked about Superman. And it's one of the great memories of my life. And it was the one time I got to meet him. He was just a really down to earth guy,
Mm-hmm.
And now when I was 6 years old, I mean, he was like Rembrandt to me. I was copying his pictures, and there were no better pictures in the world. And here I was just sitting with him, and he's treating me like a person. That was really amazing.
That is so cool.
And I got to, Mark Waid and I wrote what turned out to be the last Superman story he drew. It was in the middle 90s or toward the late 90s. And so that we didn't know, nobody knew that at the time. But that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, I know.
That's very nice.
That's crazy.
And that must have been a real, I mean, like you said, you just, I'm just trying to say, I think there's more the honor of just to work with him on a Superman comic.
Mm-hmm. I know, it was nuts.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
Okay.
But, no.
Oh, one question I wanted to, before we start getting to the Wrong Earth event, I remember on Word Balloon, you got Adam West's autograph at a comic book store for $20.
It was at it was at a show.
At a show. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did see him.
I'm gonna ask, do you still have it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Of course. He's he was just exceptional. It's really, you have to go back and really stare at the Batman TV show and really look at it to see what a terrific actor he really was.
Yes.
Because he's not pushy about it, so it can go over your head very easily. But there's an issue there's an episode where he's on two telephones. One to the police department, and one he's supposed to be Batman, and one he's supposed to be Bruce Wayne at the same time. The way he slips back and forth into both of their personalities is just beautiful. It's a Mr. Freeze episode. I forget which one, but if you have access, it's just so fun to watch him do that.
Yeah. Because I'm going to say, because just for our listeners, like, I remember watching the Batman reruns with the Adam West. I loved it as a kid. I'm going to be a little honest. When Batman '89 came out, I was kind of like, it looks a little hokey compared to Michael Keaton's one, but now it's like I can watch it with enjoyment, and also for nostalgia, because it brings me back to my childhood. But those episodes are very good.
They are very good. Particularly the first season ones are miraculous. They really try to look like a comic book, and they spend the money.
Yeah.
They're terrific.
I still now on. I think it's on FXM. I don't know what channel is that around the country, but every so often they'll show the original Batman movie, and I try to watch it. No, and I do, but it's just sometimes I have to turn it off because I have something. I don't have the time. I have to run to do something else, you know. Yeah. It's not like when we were little kids and look, it's been 2-3 hours, you know.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So sorry, Tom, I'm going to continue moving on. So let's talk about The Wrong Earth, this world-shattering special event comic. Now, before we jump into this event, may I ask, can you briefly describe to the listeners about the Wrong Earth series?
Yes, I'm happy to. I created it with Jamal Igle, the artist, and it's about there's two parallel Earths that have different versions of the same people on it. On one Earth, the prominent masked crime fighter is named Dragonfly Man, and it's an Earth patterned after old-fashioned comics where the hero is upstanding and flag saluting and helping people across the street and really, really sticks up for authority and the status quo. And the other Earth is based on later comic books, and there's a version of him there, same guy named Dragonfly, and he is an ultra-violent vigilante who wants to stick it to the man, you know. And they're the same guy, but it's two different approaches. And what happens in The Wrong Earth is they accidentally get trapped on each other's Earths. So the naive, old-fashioned hero has to live in this nightmarish world of corruption and ultra-violence, and the vigilante has to live in this, to him, nightmarish world where everybody's naive. And I hope it's fun. I hear it is.
Now, for listeners, you know, before me and Tom started the interview, I told Tom, you know, yesterday, you know, I read The Wrong Earth trade. It's out on Comixology, and you know, so if you guys get a chance, if you get a chance, pick it up at your local comics shop, the trade, or just pick it up on Comixology. I read it. I told Tom I really love it. It's great. It really is. And I told Tom we're not going to spoil anything, you know. All right. So now, last year, Ahoy Comics magazine, you guys were teasing us with ads of quote unquote, words will be written, words will be deleted, and nothing will ever be the same. Now, no spoilers. What is this event about?
Well, first I have to say that when this is over, everything will still be the same. Lied about that. The event, so this is our series, The Wrong Earth, and we decided to do some one-shot, complete in one-issue stories, a bunch of nice variant covers, and they would have different creative teams on each one, and we get to see how writers like Gail Simone and Mark Russell and Mark Waid and Stuart Moore would handle The Wrong Earth, and I get to do one too. And we have a bunch of fine different artists: Bill Morrison, Greg Scott, Michael Montanat, Leonard Kirk, Fred Harper. Some good stuff. We got variants. They all have variant covers by Gene Ha, who's one of the best in the world, and Jamal Igle. And there's one from Jerry Ordway and one from Dan Parent of Archie Comics. That's really nice. And we have a bunch of different creators just coming into this, playpen, the sandbox of the wrong Earth, and they all seem to have a really good time with it. And I think they came up with some really fine work.
Mm-hmm.
And he marketed it like it was this big crossover,
Mm-hmm.
but it isn't. The stories are all self-contained, and I promise you that when it's done, everything will be the same.
Now, now, one of the questions, and when you guys, for all these one shots, and I'm being serious, is it to look back fondly at the crossover events of the GLA and GLA GSA Avengers crossovers?
Yes, absolutely. But that was more with the marketing.
Okay.
Stories. The marketing we had fun with because, and we're open. It's a cash grab. We just want your money. That's why there's all these covers. And it turned out they accidentally turned out to be good comic books, and we're sorry for that. But the actual stories themselves are absolutely complete in one issue, and don't refer to each other at all. Maybe some year we'll do one, but not this time.
So will you guys do like if you guys do a connected crossover event, will you guys do it on your anniversary of, hey, Ahoy Comics 8th anniversary?
Sure, we could do that.
We're not going to do the 5-year. We're not going to do the 10-year.
No, we'll do the 8th. You're right. Yeah. That's a great idea. The 11th.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm stealing that one.
That's fine. I know you mentioned Jerry Ordway. I know you said this isn't a crossover event or anything, but how cool was it to get Jerry Ordway from one of the original artists and inkers from Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely super cool. He is the nicest guy and the best artist.
Yes.
And, he's been an Ahoy booster. I mean, he was a Wrong Earth reader, and the retailer who sells him his comics told me about that.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry was like really into this book, so we started to correspond a little, and
that's nice.
He's terrific. I remember when he was doing Superman at the beginning.
Yes.
You'd buy one of these comics, and there would always be at least one panel that you wanted blown up to be a poster because it was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. His work is just, I mean, Kurt Swan is our favorite of all time, but yes. Jerry Ordway is right up there.
Yes.
For Superman.
Yeah. Because I remember he did it. Sorry, I'm kind of going off the cuff, and because I remember he did one issue of Adventures of Superman. I think John Byrne wrote this story, and it was Jerry Ordway that drew it. And Superman was going up against the Fearsome Five. And for some reason, I think Clark was trying to balance to be Superman and Clark Kent, and I think his first fight with the Fearsome Five, he lost. Perry White was getting after him because he was late on his deadlines. And I remember, Clark went back home to talk to Ma and Pa Kent, actually to Pa Kent. And there's a nice scene where him and Pa Kent are walking, they're at one of those wooden farm fences, and it was just a nice quiet moment of just the two of them. Yeah. That's the thing I remember the most.
Yeah, he was wonderful. He and Marv did that book for, I want to say, about a year anyway. Like Marv Wolfman was writing it and Jerry was drawing it. And that's where they came up with the reimagining Luthor as a big businessman.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, that was Marv and Jerry, I think.
That was very good. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So I remember that. Yeah, I remember panels too. There's a panel where Superman's just plowing through a brick wall,
Mm-hmm.
that Jerry did, and I wanted that blown up huge.
Wasn't that was one of the covers, right?
There was one that, yeah, there was an interior panel too that was
Oh,
great.
okay.
That's what I
Oh,
was thinking, but yeah, really good stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, we got to work with some good people at Ahoy. We had a variant cover last year from Sergio Aragonis, which made me very happy. And, I don't want to single too many people out, but that was just a once in a lifetime thrill, was working with Sergio.
Yes. Yes. And I'm just saying for some of our listeners, the creator of Gru.
Brew the
Right?
Wanderer, yeah,
Yes.
which I think is in development for television now.
Wow. Oh, okay. So, all right. Sorry, Tom. I'm going to continue on. So, okay. So, we talked about, and during the interview, I mentioned that when I call Ahoy Comics magazine, because in the issue Trapped on Teen Planet book, there is a page in there on how to make cocktails. Who came up with that page?
That was David Hyde,
Mm-hmm.
a very good writer who also happens to be our publicist.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to me with that idea that we would have, he asked if I was interested. We could have like in every one of these 5 issues, we could have cocktail recipes that pertain to the comic at hand. And I said, oh, yes. Oh, yes. And they're very, whether you drink or not, they're very amusing to read.
Mm-hmm.
And David did a terrific job.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. Now, okay, so now I'm joking on this part. Did you guys bounce around ideas of what this quote unquote event should be called? Like, did you guys go, hey, how about we call the event The Age of the Extreme Infinite Crisis War on the Dark Gauntlet versus the Multiverse?
If I brought that to a logo designer, I don't think they'd ever speak to me again. It's otherwise very good though.
or do you guys, or did you come up with the DF versus DFM?
Right.
Okay, so now listeners, we're just poking fun at this because we love these big events. I mean, I do. And some of these events are a little crazy. Some of these events are going, why did they do this? And there's some that's really great. So, for this next section, this next part of questions I'm going to ask Tom, it's just dumb, fun questions. Just have fun. Now, in this Ahoy event, where are all the 2,596 tie-ins?
2,597.
Oh.
You missed one. Go back and count again.
So where are those tie-ins?
They're in our hearts.
Okay. Now, is there an Earth Eta that's going to be introduced in this series? We already have Alpha. We got Omega.
Yeah, we have Earth Kappa coming up in purple. We're on Earth Purple. We'll go to Earth Kappa.
Wow. Okay. All right. Now, will I see a kinder, softer, politically correct Snelson in one of these stories?
Never. Never. If Snelson is our stand-up comic creation of Paul Constant and Fred Harper. It's such a great and beautiful to look at series about a stand-up comic from the 90s who's still trying, but his stuff really isn't considered edgy anymore, but he has not changed it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sort of struggling with how to stay afloat in the new world. And one of the ways for an old comedian to stay afloat in the new world is to blame the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Start talking about cancel culture. and he falls into that trap for a while.
Mhm.
No, I don't think he would ever have the empathy or sensitivity to really be a polite stand-up comic.
And for listeners, and I'm sorry because I didn't have time, but I read the first 2 issues of Snelson and I love it.
Isn't that a great comic?
It is. So I'm kind of going off the cuff here, Tom, because the second issue, what I love about it, he's trying to be relevant and he's doing a podcast. Couple funny. There was one funny scene I love where Paul and actually Fred drew this, and it was Fred's artwork that I love. Where I forgot who it was, Snelson and was it one of his other comedian friends that was on the road with him a lot?
Yeah.
And then they're kind of going, "Hey, what happened to this big hotshot guest we were supposed to get? Oh, they canceled." And then I think Snelson had some type of YouTube documentary crew, filming their whole session. And yeah, just keep smiling. And you see the smile in one town is kind of regular. And then, yeah, they canceled, and the smile just grows more wider.
It's wider than their face.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. Snelson's wonderful because, one of the reasons it's wonderful is that the story is really, it's funny, but it's realistic and it's real world and gritty kind of. But Fred, the artist, he finds these emotional moments where he can make it surreal and trippy, even though the story itself is very grounded. It's sometimes he doesn't draw the scene as it would look, he draws it as it would feel. And what a beautiful job he does. And he does an amazing job on The Wrong Earth Purple as well. He colored it himself, and it's like no coloring job you've ever seen in comics before. It's just absolutely unique and absolutely correct and right. A pleasure to look at.
That's great. Okay, sorry, Tom, I'm going to continue on. So,
yeah.
Will I see an Earth Omega diamond chandelier? And the chandelier is from the My Bad comics. I just see the regular chandelier, but I want to see a diamond chandelier.
You don't want the character, the chandelier. You just want a chandelier.
Well, chandelier, the character is chandelier, but instead of just a regular chandelier, just diamond chandelier.
Diamond chandelier. All right, I'm going to write that down.
All right.
I'm going to write that down. We're going to have to do that. We'll have to cross over with My Bad someday because I have a big score to settle with My Bad, which is that it's funnier than my stuff. And I can't let that go.
Okay. So is it going to be one of those where Dragonfly Man is going to marry Deuce on Earth Alpha? And then is it going to be where number one's going to send Dragonfly Man's alter ego a wedding present?
You just gave me a headache.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to continue on. So in this event, will Dragonfly or Dragonfly Man get a new suit, just like Spider-Man did in Secret Wars?
No, but we'll see other versions of them. Earth Kappa has yet another version.
Oh, okay.
Called the Dragonfly, and his suit is the same but different.
Okay.
By Fred Harper, it's very good. It's a good looking suit.
And then, will Stinger ever meet a counterpart named Stung?
Well, keep reading.
Okay.
Keep reading.
All right.
Can't tell you. That would spoil the surprise of Stinger meeting Stung.
Okay. Now, I know you said that all these issues are self-contained. It's just 5 comic books, but will there be a bunch of 0.1 issues, just like Marvel's event Fear itself?
Wait until you see The Wrong Earth number 6.401.
Okay.
because you really need to save your money for this stuff because there's going to be a lot of this. And we're going to raise the prices too.
Okay. Finally, are you in talks with Hollywood and telling them that this is the next big movie franchise that you're going to have to use 20 years to build up?
I hope they're listening. Because this is the only way they would know, frankly.
All right.
Hollywood, call me.
Okay, so Tom, I'm going to start wrapping this up, Tom. So,
sure.
And I'm being serious on this part. Is there a creator or creators that you would like to work with at Ahoy Comics, just to write a mini series?
We haven't worked with yet?
Yeah.
I'd hate to single one out.
Okay, then yeah.
But we've been so lucky in the people we've gotten to work with. There have been so many great ones from, Mark Russell and Steve Pugh and Richard Pace and my goodness, like I said, Sergio and Jerry Ordway and Gene Ha, all those covers. It's just, I feel like it would be ungrateful to even wish for anyone else.
Yeah, but yeah, and also, correct. Did you guys was Blacksmith from you guys?
Yeah,
Eric,
that's
what yeah, Eric Palicki,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I know. What a terrific series that is.
Okay. What is the most fun or exciting thing you love working in comics?
That's a really good question. Well, the people are great. The relationships are great. Opening that email and finding a beautiful new piece of art that was drawn just for your comic book company. Or to write a script and see the art come back and see what they've done. And it's just so, oh my God, I can't believe they had to draw that because of me. And I love that. Just the collaboration. The collaboration makes it all worth it.
All right. I know you mentioned, because the next question is about convention moments. I know you like you said, you mentioned about meeting Kurt Swan, him buying you a beer, just talking to Superman. Is there another favorite convention moment that you have, either as a fan or as a creator?
Well, I was at one that pops out. I was at Ithacon just when John Byrne was going to take over Superman, and they hadn't announced it yet, but he was working on it, and he told us all about it. And that was so exciting to hear about beforehand, before anyone else in the world knew about it. He talked about it all weekend. I mean, he had all these plans, just 1,000 different plans, and he told us all of it. And that was pretty mind-blowing. I was trying to make him feel guilty about not having crypto, but it didn't work.
I'm sorry, it kind of reminds me, because I remember reading a story, and it was like, and for listeners, this is back literally way before internet. The only thing we had was either the comic book magazine Amazing
Heroes, yeah.
And then Comics Interview or something. Those were like
Comics Interview.
I can remember, and I can't remember if Comic Shop News, the weekly comic book newspaper, came out.
The Comic Buyer's Guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember reading an article. Matter of fact, I think I still have that Amazing Heroes that focused on John Byrne's, him doing Superman. I still have that issue. But I remember reading the article, and I don't remember what convention, but I remember someone asked him about it's either crypto or if there are going to be other Kryptonians in the Superman series. And he said, no, there's not going to be any. Superman's going to be the only one from Krypton. I remember.
Well, that lasted about 6 months.
Yeah. Because at the same convention, someone asked, is Supergirl going to appear? And he kind of, let me think about that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God! Now I gotta dig out that Amazing Heroes and find out which convention he mentioned that at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one I was at was Ithaca, Ithaca, New York.
Yeah.
And that was pretty memorable.
Like I said, this is incredible. I mean, just for you, again, to be at the beginning of, literally at the beginning of Marvel Comics, to see literally the Batman TV show as the first run, it's, um, you know, being at the Ithaca convention where John Byrne going, yeah, I'm doing Superman, I can say this because, yeah, it'll be a year and, it's not gonna like,
Yeah.
And back then, if I remember correctly, newspapers weren't even really focusing on comic books too.
No, they weren't. Absolutely not.
Because if someone called a local newspaper, hey, John Byrne's going to be doing Superman, he's going to reboot it and everything, I think that someone would hang up on them.
They wouldn't know what you were talking about. They wouldn't want to know.
But again, and then also too, being on the ground floor of Vertigo, and also starting up Ahoy Comics, which is great.
You're right. I've been really lucky. I had no idea, but I've been lucky just being in the interesting places at the right time. I'm like Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Will you be doing? Are you going to be at a convention, or what's your next convention or store signing appearance?
Well, Ahoy is going to have a presence at Ithaca this year. That's in April. I don't think I'm going to be there personally. I'm not doing shows yet because I'm an older guy and I still don't want the germs.
Yes. No, it's understandable.
But there's other braver people who probably go out on our behalf.
Mm-hmm. No, but Tom, I understand, because for us, I think our next convention in Hawaii is Comic-Con Honolulu, and I think it's in August. And I'm kind of questioning, do I go 3 days or 1 day, or do I just stay home? That kind of deal.
Yeah. Kind of have to wait and see how things are going, right?
Yeah. Okay. 2 more questions. Have you and your family ever been to Hawaii?
I was lucky to go to Maui.
Oh, nice.
It was, I guess, in the year 2001. I was in Maui. I spent maybe a week and a half there. It was the most beautiful place I ever was.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, Maui is very beautiful. It is. Yeah. All right, Tom, my last question. Any closing words to our listeners?
Aloha.
Oh, thank you. All right, Tom, I wish you all the success with the Wrong Earth event and with Ahoy Comics. Mahalo. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interview you. And thank you for at least letting me have some fun, asking you fun questions. Thank you very much. Again, I want to thank Hannah of Superfan Promotions for help setting up this interview. Hannah, thank you very much. If you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out Ahoy Comics, the Wrong Earth event. It all started with Trapped on Teen Planet #1 that's out in stores, and it will end with Wrong Earth Meet on July 27th. I want to thank Drew, the co-host of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast that comes out every Saturday. And thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys, aloha.
Aloha.
Join our Patreon page at
Patreon.com/comics for fun and profit. Why, you ask? Well, because we are on episode 700 and something, and we've been cranking these out for a decade for you. So, hey, support us. Throw us a shekel or two. Toss a buck our way. Toss $3 our way. Toss 5 or 10. Your choice. You can support us at any level, and that level gets you in our Slack channel. You get to be a part of our daily conversations that extend beyond our weekly podcast. You get entered into contests. We've given away multiple 9.8 slabbed comics over the years. We enjoy providing early access to our various episodes. We have exclusive access to shows that never see the light of day elsewhere. Video shows, review shows, exclusive episodes just for our patrons. So please, be a patron. Join us at patreon.com/comics for fun and profit.